Hey, it's Dr. Charles here, aka CoachMD, with my Magical Monday Facebook Live broadcast. And as you know, I like to start off every week with this broadcast at 12 noon, high noon on Magical Monday, just to get our week off to a good start, get my week off to a good start. I can talk with everybody and share my thoughts and insights and hear from you. Let me know where you're from, what cities, what states, what countries you're from, how long you've been listening to or tuning into CoachMD. I look forward to hearing all from you, all of you. And as many of you know, I am a medical doctor, but in my career and my personal and professional life, I've learned that what keeps us well and what gets us sick is actually one and the same thing. It's our ability to manage the challenges of everyday life. And I like to practice a true holistic medicine. And by holistic medicine, that means a balance of mind, body, and spirit. And all of those are so vital in our health and well-being. And what I'd like to talk to you today, what I'd like to talk with you today about is the enemy within. And what is that enemy within? But before I talk about the enemy within, I want to share with you some thoughts that I had that were brought out to me by somebody who I saw this morning who unfortunately is suffering from cancer. And our discussion and the whole time we were together focusing on how she can develop ways to focus her mind to help with that healing process. Because we are not here, as long as we are living, it is not our duty to struggle, to physically struggle. Now, all of us have emotional struggles and struggles in our life that may be in some theologies and some philosophies actually feel that it's a good thing to struggle. But when we physically struggle, when something invades our body, like cancer or illness, those do not belong in our body. That's what I believe. We are not here to be physically assaulted by anything inside or outside of ourselves. So that was just a brief aside, but it will tie in with the idea of the enemy within. So what is the enemy within? Now we hear all these self-help books and these empowerment books and we talk, oh, you can't talk about the enemy. We talk about the power within. We talk about greatness. We talk about the enemy. That's negative. That's going to set us up with negative feelings. Well, very important to understand and to bring up to the level of awareness and consciousness that we all have an enemy within. Now, some people over the millennia have called that enemy the devil. And I don't believe that enemy is something outside of ourselves. That enemy is actually something in us, what I've called our animal nature, our primitive nature. And what does that nature do? It tries to protect us by all means necessary from danger, threat, or vulnerability. But how does it do that? How does it know? Well, it doesn't actually know. It stores data. Those are in our data banks from when we were young. Usually between the first 12 to 13 years of our life, those are getting stored in there. Whatever we might feel is dangerous or threatening as an adult, and what causes us to fight or flee, because that's how it operates, our animal brain, just by fight or flight. And when it detects something that causes danger, threat, or vulnerability, it causes us to fight or flight. So let's think of some examples. You're going through your life this week. You're going through and all of a sudden you seem to be making some breakthroughs. But every time you make a breakthrough and you seem to be gaining success, something inside of you triggers to draw you back. That something inside of you is that animal nature, that internal brain, that primitive nature, that animal nature, what I call automatic brain. The enemy within. That's what it is. Let's say you were growing up in a home where there was lack abounded. Well, that was the familiar culture of your home, lack, not having enough, never having enough. And you always heard that day in and day out, the struggles of your parents. And you also had that sense that you never had enough. So now, as an adult, you go forward and you're going to have enough. You're going to have more than enough, abundance. But you keep drawing back. That's that fight or flight, because actually that triggers in you danger. So that is the enemy within, because you deserve success. That enemy pulls you back. It's that child, that the childhood experiences which are stored deep in there, locked in there, and they cause you to fight or flee. The only way to get beyond that is to not believe, trust, or take direction from your automatic brain. That primitive animal nature, all your lifetime experiences, mostly from childhood, but believe, trust, and take direction from your higher self, your mind, your consciousness, your connection with divinity. And that connection is what I told this woman today is what's going to help to heal her. Because that connection doesn't tolerate suffering, at least physical suffering. And the suffering that the enemy within causes is that fight or flight, the constant fight or flight. I recall when I became a doctor, right? And I was going, out there, the doctor, I had, all of a sudden I'm 28-year-old doctor. I'm supposed to be the expert on everything. People are going to come to me for knowledge and wisdom and inspiration. And all I could think of is, feeling this insecurity that somehow I was going to be found out to be a fraud, to be not to be worthy of being a doctor, that I was going to be found out. Embarrassed, that I was going to be embarrassed. And I remember bumping into people when I was outside the office, in jeans or a t-shirt, and they'd see me and I'd get embarrassed because it was almost like I was exposed as a fraud. But guess what? That is my automatic primitive nature, fighting and fleeing that danger. What got me over that? What got me over that was, first of all, realizing that I could be vulnerable, I could be honest, I could share that I don't know everything, and that going forward, and of course getting more experience going out into the world, gave me that experience and got me over that. But that's the only thing that can deal with the enemy within, because the enemy within me was saying, "Hey, Charles, you're pushing it. You're going to be exposed. Someone's going to find out that you're really that little kid who's insecure and who wasn't that popular in high school, and they're going to find out that your grades in high school, they were okay. They weren't great, Of course, I kicked butt in college and medical school, but that goes, but that doesn't matter to that primitive brain. The weakness is what matters, and the weakness is what makes you fight or flee. And that is what causes that embarrassment. So the only way to get over it, and the only way that I was able to get over it, was to go forward and not believe, trust, or take direction from that, but to believe, trust, and take direction that I am much more complex than my primitive animal automatic brain nature. And that helped me a lot. So when you go forward this week, understand that there are going to be occasions where you're going to be triggered. Understand that those triggers to make you fight or flee are coming from a place that really isn't you. It's really from a child's brain that has developed what would be familiar to you, what would grant you love, what would get you love, what might allow you to understand who's going to be above you, who's going to be below you. Those are things that your brain stores from an early age. And so when you go forward this week, understand when you are triggered with fight or flight, there's always a reason, and it 99.9% of the time is staying, you can find it when you delve a little deeper under the surface and realize that, yes, there are some real dangers. I mean, if, heaven forbid someone mugs you or something or does something, that's danger, yes. That's not coming from your automatic brain. Same thing when I talk about these concepts and people say, well, you're a doctor, you're a medical doctor. What are you delving in this kind of, touchy-feely kind of woo-woo stuff? Well, yes, people do break legs and do need to have emergency surgery, whatever. Yes, those are real things in medicine. But from what I've learned is that the majority of illness arises from this belief, trust, and taking direction from these automatic instincts which we're not attuned to. We're just not aware of. And they cause us to react in certain ways that ultimately causes sickness. And if I was not dealing with that, if I was not looking to expose that, to me, I would not be an adequate doctor. I would not be doing what I should be doing. And that's why I do what I do. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, oh, Dr. Charles, you don't know my life. I had it really bad. I had it so bad. I was, abused physically, emotionally, sexually. And yes, those are really strong danger triggers. I understand that. The only way that you can break through those is to understand, one, that the perpetrators of that were not acting because of you. The perpetrators of that, those horrific acts, were only acting via their primitive nature, their automatic brain. And when you believe, trust, and take direction from your higher self and not from the idea that there was something wrong with you that created that, when you do that, then you start breaking through. Now, it's difficult and it's a challenge, but you can do it because you have a higher connection to a higher power. I believe, my personal belief is that higher power is what I call God. And God to me is in all of us. But your connection is your higher mind and consciousness. And that higher mind and consciousness will diffuse any of that. So that enemy within is your automatic brain. That enemy within is your primitive nature. That enemy within is your animal brain. That enemy within is all the stored data. It's data. Those memories is data. That's all it is. It's data and it's stored there. And those crazy thoughts that you get, and I'm going to give a little pitch to my free ebook, Fake News Stories by Your Brain. And that's something that I would encourage all of you to download. It's free, no strings attached. It will kind of give you an idea of how to identify where those fake news stories come from, because guess what? They come from the enemy within. So going on this week, understand, yes, we all have that enemy within. That's what makes us broken, if you will. That's what makes us suffer, if you will. And that's what creates all which causes so much uneasiness and blocks as we move forward in life. But the good news is that there is something greater than that primitive nature, and that's what makes us human. That's what makes us different from the animals. That's what makes us, our lives, so much richer, and why we have so much of a responsibility, not to only ourselves and those who we know and love, but to the world around us. So thanks for tuning in this week. I greatly appreciate it. If you feel that anything I said is worthwhile sharing, please share it. I would be very grateful if you did that. And until next week, I'm Dr. Charles, aka CoachMD, signing off, telling you that I do love you. Even though I don't know you personally, I do feel a love for you. God bless you. Bye for now.